Hey guys, welcome to another AI conversation. I'm joined today by PJ Brion, who I met in ano ba yun? Google GDG, Google Developer Group in BGC. Welcome to the show, PJ.
Yeah, it's an honor to be here in this show, and I'm so excited to talk about the things that we want to talk about, not only
Yeah,
on AI, also on security in
yeah,
general. Because
yun nga eh. I think you made a very good impression on me when, I think we met on the side, diba? And you wanted to
yeah,
parang marry. Because as I understand, maybe sige, like I'm sure a lot of people know you, but for the few people who haven't met you, maybe give us the 1 minute background no on yourself. Like what do you do nowadays and what are you looking to accomplish or pursue?
okay. So my full name is Peter Joshua Brion. So I'm a cybersecurity practitioner or professional by profession.
Mm-hmm.
So currently, I do some what you call this client consulting on international international clients, and at the same time I'm also providing recommendations and even some suggestions to the clients in terms of improving security posture on their organization, particularly on infrastructure, I would say. And then what I've been up to at this point is that I've been brewing something that is actually building a new community for cybersecurity.
Mm.
Especially, I also garnered a partnership with one of the growing communities here in the Philippines. If you're familiar with Filipino web developer peers, or
Oh yeah, si Genesis.
yeah,
Tama, di ba?
he tapped me there,
Ah, okay.
and and honestly, that time I was like, since they invited me to talk there in FD and one of their events there, and then I just talk about basic parts of cybersecurity, and then I just switched to applying applications on Python and so on. Then I'm actually currently brewing with something with them. I cannot disclose it yet, but one thing for sure, this will be open on general public by October this year.
Whatever you're cooking, no?
Yeah,
Okay.
it will be fun because I'm not only going to talk about cybersecurity, but I'm gonna probably jump into different topics that
Mm.
I just wanna talk about. It feels like, okay, I need to talk about this because that's what's happening, or I can give some hot takes on cybersecurity news or whatever that thing is.
Sige, yeah, let's focus on that, no? Kasi I actually have a love-hate relationship, mostly hate, with cybersecurity communities. Well, actually, not all, just one. And I'm curious, how do you feel about it? Parang, do you have like a general sense of the state of cybersecurity in the Philippines?
Honestly, the moment that I actually a career shifter from being a software engineer to cybersecurity professional way back 4 years ago.
Okay.
So from the moment that I shifted from being a software engineer to cybersecurity, I
Mm.
was like, there's something in my heart that that prompts me to build a community in cybersecurity that will really help me to furnish everything that I know in cybersecurity, especially as per experts there, or
Yeah.
no, actually experts more like SMEs, SMEs and cybersecurity leaders there to give me some inputs on how should I pursue cybersecurity. And one thing that I first joined was the PITSF, the Philippine IT Security Forum.
Mm.
At first, when I joined there, I gained a lot of learnings there, but along the way, somehow their ways got I didn't feel that they're doing the supposed calling that they should do, which is to raise next generation cybersecurity professionals or even leaders in cybersecurity. And this is where I think that happened during my third year or this year actually.
Kailan to? What year did you start with them? 2019, ganun? Or earlier pa?
Earlier, I think 2018 or so.
2018. Okay, got it.
2018 or could be late. I cannot remember exactly what year, but during those times that I joined there, I just enjoying reading some facts. I enjoy reading some news until late last year until now.
Mhm.
That's where I saw I became familiar with you because some you posted there and then some people will bash
Mhm.
you whatsoever, and I was like, what? Why are you doing this? You're supposed to be a role model to people there,
Yeah.
especially the new members who are joining to cybersecurity at this point. Especially some people are career shifting s- from from one field from another. It could
Mhm.
it could be on medical, HR, marketing, even dev like me. I just shifted for some reason.
Oo.
But and that time that was actually 2023. This is where I started like, okay, now I felt like that it's hopeless to
Yeah.
yeah, I mean that's a honest thing. Because
Mm.
of what I've seen lately on what they're doing, it feels like that it's too sorry for the word, but it's too crap
Mm.
that
Mm.
it's too crap that they don't build a friendly community that will really help cybersecurity people to and empower themselves on how they can explore their careers and stuff. So
Mm.
that's where my burden, or I should say the prompt, came
Oo.
in
Mm.
to build a new community wherein I can teach at the same time raise new generation people who can shift into cybersecurity with any profession. At the same time, I can also pass them the baton that I've learned from my boss, and even on the experiences that I did on cybersecurity. Because I believe this is what the people need: cybersecurity. Even the individuals, actually, they need cybersecurity in general. Why? Because if we're gonna notice it lately, there are some security attacks that's been happening, like phishing, smishing, and even ransomwares. And the worst thing is, governments are being targeted as well. Like most of the target attacks, and I was like, why? Why do these people don't do their job properly? So yeah, that's why I believe that building a new community on cybersecurity will also help other people not only to explore the essentials and even the advanced forms or types of cybersecurity, but also to be able to seek mentorships then as well to other cybersecurity experts all around the world and even in the Philippines as well. Well, at the same time, cybersecurity is also advancing in every field, especially on AI. Why? Because when AI boomed around, I think 2019 ish, or could be earlier, there's also actually a threat already on the security side, especially when the generation of large language models that's been built. And during my time when I was in college, it's not yet much developed, but it's going there. We're going there, and we're one of my concerns that I brought to the table with Doc Ligot during the time that I met him on Google I/O Extended Manila event last 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks, was that how are we gonna do on the security side of AI? Especially, nobody talks honestly on AI safety and even the security measures on AI. The most people that I see on the post is that they always talk on AI, they don't talk on security measures behind AI. I was like, hold on. If you're gonna keep on talking on AI without talking on the security aspect of it, then it's just that we're dropping a bomb any moment in time, any moment in soon. It's like, how are we gonna protect the future technologies that we have, that we're advancing at this point, if we don't tackle on the security side of it? And that's also one of the reasons why I want also to build a community as well in cybersecurity, because I think other technologies are also advancing at this point, like quantum physics in quantum computing, to be exact. It's also being researched already, and even there are some trials on it. And there was one crazy thing that I read some time ago, and that's where I saw it on PI. I'm not sure if I saw it on PITSF uh there was that there's a Chinese company that was able to decrypt the encryption methods, the RSA particular, using quantum computing, in which I think they've also done it on blockchain as well. In which it is very concerning, because as the technology advances, it feels like security should also advance as well. Like, what are we gonna do to protect the safety of people, especially on infrastructures? How sure are we that we are ready for this kind of attacks? Because any moment, actually, we don't know. Sooner or later, we might be able to see some cyber attacks related to AI. I'm not pretty sure when it will happen, but if that happens, that's if that happens, we should be prepared for it, and we need to be well versed on how can we protect those, especially on the back ends of the AI part, because basically guarding LLMs is one, but the main thing is that guarding the back end and even the process on how the generation of large language models should be also protected as well, because that can once the hackers were able to decipher or encrypt or decrypt what's inside of it, and even the data, they can do man in the middle attack without
Mm,
knowing.
mm,
And they can also do some relearning, like they can manipulate on the way how machine learns, and
mhm,
sooner or later we don't know that some AIs are now being infiltrated by malicious injections, or
mm.
even malicious scripts that's supposed to help the humanity, but it harms more to the side of humanity. And
Yeah,
that's also
that's siguro
uh,
yun, we can focus on that, no? Mamaya. But no, I actually heard about that Chinese parang claim, no, yung quantum thing. Ano pa yon, last year pa yon, January something, 2023.
actually, yeah,
Pero I don't know if it's been verified. Alam mo naman with all this China stuff. Pero for example, yung Chinese na text to video, yung Kling, it's pretty good. I think it's the best right now. It's beaten Luma and Runway. I haven't seen Sora, pero Kling talaga. No, pero sige, separate topic pa yon. No, I totally resonate with your sentiments, no? Lalo na sa AI safety. Kaya nga ano do you remember, in that Google conference, parang ako lang yata yung AI safety topic sa dulo pa. And it was almost ano nga and they had to cut me short, no? They were giving me the 5 minute, 1 minute. So I didn't even get to talk about everything. Pero I feel nga na if you remember the ratio I showed, it's really 100,000 is to 1, which is pretty bad, no? I'm actually
yeah,
pretty impressed na you were interested in AI safety. Normally, walang ano Or they'll say, wow, interesting, pero psh, they'll, they'll go back to their typical, what do you call this? Uh, I guess it's because it's new then. Pero there are some fundamentals then that we need to talk about. Like security is a fundamental thing, even before you look at the safety of the models.
Yeah.
Magandang tingnan yung security. Sige, so let's break that down, no? From your perspective, kasi you talked about cyber in general. What about cyber for AI? What are your thoughts on that?
Actually, cybersecurity for AI, that's actually one of the essential things that AI people should consider, especially if they want to develop their own language models. Yeah, they should consider it. Why? So basically, this is what these are my thoughts on this. It's like I think I saw a post of Army Obingar last last that few months ago or weeks ago that she's really concerned about on how the in terms of security of AI when things are being developed, and I was like, yeah, I agree on that. Why people don't talk about it, don't bother talk about it. And one of the things that I consider why is it important is this. If we're gonna sorry, if we're gonna break down on how LLMs are works is that let me share my screen a bit. I'm not pretty sure if this is how I understand how LLM work. Can I think I cannot share screen for some reason. But yeah.
No, go
Okay.
ahead.
Okay. So here's the thing. Okay. Let me hide this. So basically this is LLM. Let's just say this. I'll put label L as LLM here. Usually these language models are simply like a language. It's more like a text based thing wherein every answers that the user inputs being directed here. So any words or sentences, phrases, these are being stored on LLMs. And there are actually different language models to be honest. So on the second part, this is where the backend comes in. I hope that though this is for open for correction because I haven't dissected fully how AI really works in general. But this let's just say this is middleware. So basically, this middleware contains the backend code on how the training data, especially on language models, will work. So for example, if okay, this is the user. This is now the user. This is a simple thing that I can think of at this point. You. Let's just
Yep,
say that.
go ahead.
Okay. So what it does is that the user will send this text like a prompt or question to to the application. So let's just say the user sent a prompt to middle to that much to this backend saying question is how wait, let me insert my text box for a bit. But it's easier to type on text. Oh, oh, okay. Let's just say let's make it bigger. 36. How how do I do how do I keep myself busy? So that's a sample prompt. So what it does, correct me guys if I'm wrong, to those who to those who are listening or watching this podcast. So once the user sent this prompt, how do I keep myself busy? Now it's being transferred to the backend, which is the middleware, I presume. So now this one, the middleware is now processing what should be the proper answer for this kind of question. So now what middleware does is that, or the so-called the backend of it, is to process things based on what's been stored here on this LLMs related to this topic. And then from that point, since technically LLMs are being improved every single day, like as long as the user properly trains the data. So what this middleware will do is that they will get those answers from these language models, and that language and that thing will compile it here, and then they will process it to the user, how it will be displayed, how it will be how what will be so-called before answer formatting or what, I don't know. And then the answer will now be shown to the user. And then the user can also suggest if that answer that this person is looking for is already satisfied or not. Or if not, then go back to that state again. It's like you're giving feedbacks on that giving feedbacks through going to the backend and then store it to LLMs. And then it's a cycle. So what we now for this part, the backend one should be the first one to be protected. Why? Because this is where everything is being processed through LLMs. As like for example, if there are any answers, if from the coming from those models, this this machine or this backend will get any answer or any sentence or phrases or words that can actually consider as an answer to this kind of questions. And then they will somehow uh, build a semantics on it in a way that this can be human readable. And that point, when it is already human readable, this will now be transferred to the user. Now, I think this the security part of it is this. If the backend of this AI machine that you create or AI AI application that you made is not secured enough, man in the middle attack can happen. As especially if this machine is being exposed to public, and then the hackers were able to figure out how to reverse engineer this one, then it's disaster. Because
Yeah,
what
so
they
if I can react agad, no, this is a good illustration.
yeah
At least dun sa current implementations that you see, kunyari LangChain, mga ganyan. It's actually the LLM already
mm,
that receives the input and in plain text, and then it returns the output in plain text. Para lang siyang any machine
oh yeah
learning model, 'di ba? You
yeah
send an input X, it gives you Y. Yung middleware, I think that's where there's a lot you can do there. It can do filtering before the
mm,
LLM can get it. And then if you've heard of RAG, that's also where RAG occurs, no? Kunyari,
mm,
uh, you want to link the LLM to a database. Actually, it's not linked to the database, no? It's a middleware that retrieves data using
mm,
some sort of embedding, matching, and then adds that retrieval to the text of the prompt, and then sasagot si LLM, no? So, yeah, you're right. At all points there, you can have some sort of an injection. Pero siguro the way I would think about it, there's such a thing as a bad prompt, which will give you a bad response.
yep
And yun, ano pa yan? Blue sky pa yan. No one's actually mapped that yet. But then even at the point of parang insertion, or the point of doing a query, you can have all sorts of other things there, no? Maybe uh number one, the input can be sent somewhere else if there's like an agent right there, no? And if it contains confidential data, yan, it can leak it, no? Um, or
AIs
or akala mo LLM mo yung sumasagot pero ibang LLM pala. But these are all, I guess, still in my case, in my view, still hypothetical. Kasi at the end of the day, the back end belongs to you eh. So for it to have been compromised means someone inside must have fixed it, no? Yung main point of vulnerability pa rin is really the prompt, no? How you can manipulate the prompt basically.
Yeah, and at the same time, if the prompt was able to send someone, actually, I'm not pretty sure if prompts accept some codes there, like malicious codes. So if it's not secured enough on the middleware side to filter it out, then it's really dangerous to
Mm.
do so. Especially if
Parang parang remote code execution RCE.
yeah,
It accepts code as content kasi you can use an LLM to correct your code. Eh. Ang tanong is, can you get the LLM to execute the code? In theory, you could kasi nga if you put a URL, let's say GPT-4, it will, search the internet for that URL. So
mm,
somewhere there could be some form of vulnerability, pero I haven't actually checked kung paano, 'di ba?
yeah. That's actually one of the things that I'm actually curious if the hackers they have already figured out the mapping of the LLM side, because this is where anything goes crazy. If the hackers were able to figure out how they gonna map the LLMs, for sure they can map the backend side. They can connect everything. In which we don't know when will it happen. Hopefully it not. It will not. Because if it happens, then sorry, but this is kind of disaster if that happens, especially on
Yeah.
corporation.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest roadblock to B2B adoption. I was telling someone else in another conversation na the adoption of AI at a retail level is growing fast, no? We're talking about people using it for individual purpose. But yung business adoptions is still so low because nga there are all these fears of privacy leak, security leak, or not to mention yung mga AI going rogue, yung mga ganyang fears. So for the foreseeable future, if you ask me, I don't think there will be a lot of B2B adoption. It's mostly going to be retail, no? Individual adoption. I don't know. I don't know if how do you feel about that, no?
Mm, for now, yes. It might not happen this in this time. Some other time, yeah. As a as long as technology advances at this point, anything can be adapted. So possibly anything. That's what I believe. That's why nothing given the fact that the technology is really advanced super fast, like almost every day or every month there's a new technology being released, and I was like, what? So yeah, that's how impressive are we are as humans. And then sometimes we abuse it by doing some vulnerability stuff that exploits corporations to extract data and such. Yeah.
Yeah, I think maybe it's something we can figure out now over time. There's one issue is yung access to the model in the first place. And if it's going to be connected to a repository, the access to that repository can obviously be exploited. Pero there's a bigger, I would say, black box about, kunyari, yung mga jailbreak prompts, mga ganyan.
Yeah.
And people don't realize pala na you can ask the AI to do malicious things. And when you say malicious, doesn't even have to be, kunyari, an actual breach. Eh. Although it has happened, they were able to, an older version of GPT 3.5, there was a jailbreak prompt that allowed you to extract yung training data niya, some of which is confidential. No? Pero kunyari, yung mga getting the AI to give you the instructions for napalm, mga ganyan, or to write a code for you that will allow you to hack a website, no? Those are things na super ano pa siya, unexplored. And kasi billions of actually trillions na nga yata of tokens have been ingested from all over the internet. So we have no way of knowing for sure what other data is actually contained in these models. And it's just a matter of doing the right prompts, makukuha mo siya eh. So I think so those are parang for me two separate issues. The issue of the usage of the model itself. Yung kunyari, it's a typical website, so all types of website vulnerabilities apply, no? Anything that
Mm.
has a get request or a post request, those things can be malversed. Uh, Prompt injections. Pero yung mismong nature of the AI itself, hindi pa yun. I don't think people have actually figured that out. Much less the InfoSec people. Kasi if you ask me, there aren't that many people in InfoSec who are actually savvy with AI. No, that's my opinion. Kasi most of them learned about their craft is mostly network security, in primarily it's network security, access
Yeah.
to and malware, no exploits. So there's very little overlap between cyber professionals and then let's say AI machine learning professionals. Maliit, no? And then on the flip side, you go to the AI world, kukonti lang din yung merong parang bottom knowledge of cybersecurity. Kasi most people doing AI don't naman do application or web development kasi that's how you pick it up, diba? If you're gonna do web development or app development, eventually you're gonna have to secure your app. Most data people don't do that eh. From experience na. You learn about that later when you're deploying mga APIs, no? Kaya I don't know, is that what you see? Kasi obviously my experience is medyo dekada na, no? I don't know about nowadays, no? Do you see an overlap between, the AI space and the InfoSec space?
There will be. There will be. Because there's an event actually that I attended, I think that was last year. We're exhibitors there. And someone actually asked a question to this presenter, which is a big company here in the Philippines, one of the biggest telcos here. They asked if generative AI will replace cybersecurity, and that representative from that big telco answered yes and no. Yes, because well, AI advances, so as in which we can see it right now, anything can be answered by AI. No, because of the technology is not yet being developed for that one yet. But I can sense or say that there will be some point that it's going to be research. Uh, Research in the sense that there might be some tool creations or even so-called solutions that can provide that provides AI for cybersecurity in general, and in which for me, given this because I'm kind of familiar on generative AI at some sort because of what's happening. I don't think that generative AI can replace cybersecurity in general, because in order to improve generative AI, you need a consistent input there. I think that's how it works. But if we don't keep on entering a consistent good inputs on our prompts on something or as part and put it on LLMs as being trained, then I don't think that generative AI will take over cybersecurity totally. And honestly, there's actually one thing that I've learned from my one of my bosses there in the current work that I am doing, is that when you're dealing in security issues, there's always different approach. There's no always one solution on everything. So that's also the reason why I believe that generative AI cannot entirely replace the cybersecurity in general. It's more on overlapping. At the same time, it will also fasten the process on how cybersecurity professionals recommends something on some issues that was found on different platforms or so. And primarily, what I think we can agree on is that you should use AI as a guidance, not as a dependency on doing some task, which is
Do you mean for coding, no? Do you use AI ba for coding these days?
I don't use AI for codes.
Oo.
I'm more on into from scratch the
Okay.
person. Getting
How,
ideas, yeah.
how come? How come? What keeps you from doing it? Or have you tested it and you're not yet parang
Uh,
sold onto it?
I'm not fond of AI generated codes for some reason. It feels like that if I'm gonna test this AI code, it's gonna be messy. So I have to redo it. So I was
So
like,
parang
okay.
double work, no? If you ask AI to write something tapos mo rin i-edit mo din.
Yeah, and if that code didn't work, I was like, nah, I'm gonna create my own code rather than using this AI. If and only if the language models were able to improve the coding styles, AI coding styles, then and more or less it's workable. But probably sometime in future, if AI has developed so far in advance, I think anyone will use AI for sure.
Yeah.
Let's be like let's be real. Uh, that even the technologies before the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s,
Mm-hmm.
there's only some people consider did a test on it before it was being popularized. And I'm not surprised if that happens.
Are you referring to AI technology? Yung mga lumang approaches?
Not only AI, not only AI technology, even the previous technologies that was popularized
Mm.
at this. Yeah.
Okay. Sige, let's go back to cyber, no? Since that's your field. You said you made a shift to cybersecurity from software eng. Can you maybe share your journey? How did you do the switch? What did you have to study? Because I'm sure outside of artificial intelligence, cybersecurity is such a hot field. So in your case, ano ba yung naging mo? What was your path to learning it?
Okay. Honestly, I shifted to cybersecurity not because of though partly I'm willing to shift, but more like project transfer. So okay,
So
I'll
was it part of your job to shift or was it a career decision?
it's more like a management decision because well yeah, I'll share a story of how I was transferred from software engineering into cybersecurity. So there was I think that was 4 years ago, March, if I can remember exactly, it's March 9, 2020. This is where the start of my project transfer. So I was actually notified earlier around third week of February or last week of February that year that I will be transferred to another project in which I didn't know I was like, okay, what kind of project is this? It's like they actually entered it into, I'm not pretty sure if it's code name or yeah, they entered it as security operations center. I was like, wait a minute, this is not a coding thing. It's a different thing. And I was like, okay, sure.
SOC, yung trabaho, Security Operations Center.
That's the name of the project before that. That's the name of the project that they use during the time that I was going to be transferred. And then during the time that I was transferred around March 9, we started trainings. We started trainings about, well, basically what I was trained for, what I was trained was the familiarization of different types of malwares such as ransomware, Trojan, and basically the essentials of cybersecurity and stuff. That's what I was trained for. And then good thing is that uh we are also trained to conduct incident response through VMs. And we were using Windows XP that time or Windows 7.
So
to
you were pen testing mga XP machines, no?
Not necessary, not really. It's more like how are you gonna do if there's a malware
Okay.
those in the Windows machines? And then we need to somehow discuss it in a team, how we did it, and so on and so forth. And then we're like, okay, fine. Then okay, so I was like, and then pandemic hits, so everything shifted from on-site work to work from home. And this is where everything started to more like get crazy, get crazier. It was like, yeah, it's kind of fun. And that moment during that time that I was experimenting stuff on how can I resolve malware issues inside Windows machines, and I was like, okay, I find it fun, I find it cool to do stuff, and then I decided to stay there because
Mm.
I find it fun, and it's more like will it be a new role or something, and then I think it was a year after the transfer was formalized, and I was like, okay, I'm officially a cybersecurity professional now for a year already.
So your current role, can you outline what are the typical responsibilities, no, for a cybersecurity engineer?
Okay, so there are
In general lang para lang people know.
yeah. So you will start a service desk wherein you will receive tickets from platforms to triage issues there. Especially if there's a security threat, then you will pass it on security analysts, wherein the security analyst will analyze those issues and provide recommendations, especially if there's somehow threat being discovered inside those machines through platforms or WAF or but any security platforms that our team is handling. And then if things got worse to the point that you need to do reverse engineering or anything that is really that really needs to use the advanced levels of it, then there's a there's someone up there. This is where I was being designated at this point. So more like in my role actually I do this is where more like consulting comes in at the same time. We're more on client facing at this point. Actually, no, hold on. The first time that I did the client facing when I was on the second level, and I was I would say guinea pig, more like a pilot to that service, and I was like, wait, hold on. I don't know how to face clients because being a dev, you just code. You don't face client. You don't do client facing stuff. That's it. As long as you finish your code, you're done. But here it's a different animal because you have to talk to the C-level people inside on client's organization, and I was like, okay, how do I approach them? The funny thing is that when I present some reports on them, the first time I presented a report to a giant client, I reported it in English for some reason, and they were like, "We speak Tagalog. We speak Tagalog? Why do you need to speak in English?" I was like, "Okay, so what language should I use?" Then the rest is history. And I was like,
When you say language, talking to the person,
"Yeah,
or okay, not programming language.
not programming language because actually that time since we're starting, so I didn't have much programming stuff yet happening until 2021 to 2022. I actually initiated creating parsers for different platforms, and I was like, it's fun but stressing because I guess I can code at the same time. I'm handling the stress that I felt while developing that parser. And I was like, okay, I need rest. I know I want to rest, but I have to resume it after 4 hours of sleep, 3 hours. Sometimes I just take a nap for an hour and then code again until to the point that I have to leave for almost 2 weeks because of the stress that I dealt.
What kind of stress? Because you were dealing with people, yun ba yun? Nakaka-stress siya.
That's one. People, coding, and even clients. So it jam packed, literally. Like, hold on, how can I manage this all at once? And since the team that was assigned on that uh on that parser creation, I'm the only one who can code that time. I'm the only one who can help them, honestly, that time. And I was, though it is fulfilling afterwards because uh we're able to provide some reports to the client. But the thing is that it took toll on my health, actually, especially on my mental side, mental health side. I thought myself that I might get somehow I might get into a borderline depression, but thankfully not. It didn't happen.
I'm wondering though, kasi I'm trying to connect it to yung sinabi mo earlier about these cyber communities and how they tend to become toxic. Baka this is also just the outlet then of many people going through stress. Parang napaisip lang ako. Kasi nga, developers are normally not extroverted people by ano lang by nature. Kasi nga, that's why they're attracted to this kind of work, no? It's just you and the machine. And then you're put in a role where you have to be more of an extrovert. You deal with people. Nakaka-stress talaga yun. I think it's the opposite. The opposite is true if you have extroverts, kunyari mga sales and marketing people, and then you force them to learn coding. That's stressful for them. Kasi their usual, habits and patterns and abilities don't apply to, to technology. Um, do you agree? Is that something that you can relate to?
Yeah, actually. It's more like I am dealing with bunch of people who, well, I appreciate them for helping me uh for analyzing the plugs properly, especially on the automations that I did on that parser and everything. Sometimes it feels like that I think this is one of the sufferings that I would say one of the sufferings that I need to endure because without honestly, without enduring those sufferings, I wouldn't reach in this kind of position that I am right now, wherein I'm actually mentoring a team for CTF in PUP. At the same time, I'm actually leading a a department on GDS CPUP as well, and even being part of this data ethics PH and being able to be a guest speaker on different webinars, seminars, and even Google DevFest. That's one of the largest thing that I did.
Are you
That
enjoying the experience, getting to talk to people and present your ideas? How do you feel about that?
well, that's a good question actually. I started being a guest speaker around 2017, some months after I graduated college. So at first it's not that much good because especially if you did study so a bit regarding the talk that you gonna speak on, and then somehow I got not really traumatized, it's more like I got afraid of it somehow. Just because it's my first time doing that talk to in front of students before. So I was like, okay, fine. I'll just deal with it. And then years come by, I was able. I think when I shifted to cybersecurity, this is where this is where the speaking engagements came in. Like literally, I was like, "What in the world is this? Why do I like? How come it was able to do this and stuff?" And then it is the same people, students. I was talking to students, and I think that's also one of the reasons why I had this burden to build a cybersecurity community as well, coming from my speaking engagements and stuff. And it reached to the point that I became a guest speaker on Google Dev Fest last year, which is a mix of professionals and even students. There was a point on Google Dev Fest that someone talked to me asking for cybersecurity related questions for 3 hours. We're just sitting there somewhere at podium that time. We just talked. After my talk, someone approached me like, "What certification do I need to take for cybersecurity?" Blah blah blah, and so on and so forth. Some people, some students took a picture with me, and this is where also I met Genesis from FWDP, from Google DevFest, and because they find my talk so impressive, according to them, and they decided to invite me on their engagements, speaking engagements and stuff. And I was like, okay, sure, fine, let's go with it. I actually have this calling card on my wallet. Just
Is that your own personal business card or is a company business card?
I don't have any calling card yet,
Hmm.
but I received a calling card from Genesis itself
From
during
them. Okay, okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I
So
think like just speaking from experience, um, when you start teaching people, lalo na in mga seminars,
yeah,
it's a great life hack to public speaking. Kasi nga, I feel that that's one of the best ways to learn. You learn better if you teach. Kasi nga, you're forced to explain to others what you know. Para lang siyang large language model, diba? If you ask the large language model to rephrase a prompt, the output gets better. So parang in your case, because you have to impart knowledge to someone and they have to learn it from you, you actually double the learning for yourself. No? And the more you do that, the better you become. No? Yeah. I'm just conscious we're at the hour, no? Sabi sa'yo, mabilis eh. So I'm just thinking out loud. Now that you're at this point in your career, um, what's your mission? No? Sabi mo, you wanted to build a group, a community, you want to inspire people to get into cyber. So, I mean, if you use this as a platform to reach out to people, what would you want to tell them or what would you want to impart?
yeah, more like on security awareness. That's one. So we'll have to start from ground up, meaning from the masses going to the higher people. The higher people. Why? Because lately, as I've said, anyone can be can be a subject for security breach, even phishing, especially, and smishing. Because if as we all know, all of us are receiving some messages like, "Nanalo ka sa loto ng eme, ganito, ganyan." And I was like, "What? I didn't register on those stuff?" And that's how rampant this kind of attacks lately. And I was like,
Hmm.
okay, we need we need someone who can uh teach and equip the masses and even the higher people to be aware on the risks that they're facing, especially if they don't really take care of themselves on securing everything. And I think, bottom line, every cybersecurity breach happened whether personal, a group, or organization, or even to the state, is a human error. One human error causes a lot of trouble. Actually, that's why we need to. make sure that people are aware of those kind of stuff. And that's where my goal also became into fruit, that I want to be part of a change wherein people will be not only technology literate, at the same time security literate, in a sense that if they see those kind of sussy things on internet, whether phone, laptops, uh, tablets, on any devices that they are using, at least they're able to know how to protect themselves from it. Even if someone is asking for is one of the popular, I think, attacks that's been done lately is are you familiar with some people being compromised and their FB accounts are being compromised, and then
Yeah,
that
marami
would
yan. It's happening
will
a lot
ask.
now. Yeah.
Yeah, actually I have some friends who've been affected by it, and it's really sad. It really saddens me that the cybersecurity infrastructure in the Philippines is really lacking in terms of the awareness. And that's actually my mission, to not only build a cybersecurity community, but also use this community to help people be a technology and security literate in a way that they can protect themselves from these attackers, unless they're being intentional of harming people, which is this is this is actually the best thing that this community that I want to do for them. Let's just say, legacy, quote unquote, from the time that it it became it materialized, and it bears, the fruit of it has so much to, so called, I forgot the fruit's too much, that the people who wants to harvest that still few, and we want to raise those people as well in cybersecurity field.
Yeah, I think that'd be good, no? Maybe in our next episode, we can maybe run down ano ba yung mga typical, like basics muna, no? Cybersecurity basics, what are the typical vulnerabilities, how do you address them? And then I'd be very keen to talk about yung AI vulnerability na talaga. Yun talaga.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Definitely, we can talk about those, and then for sure we can talk about AI safety and other technological advances safeties, because we believe that tackling those as early as now can prevent any attacks that can happen in the future. And hopefully, from the community that I'm going to form in the next, hopefully it will materialize sooner or later, maybe a year or two. We'll be able to help people, especially from the masses, to be able to somehow inspire and have an assurance that they will be protected against those attacks. And I'm pretty sure that before we wrap up this episode, I'm pretty sure that I hope that people who will gonna watch this podcast are gonna listen to it while they're doing their own thing. We'll have a basic idea who am I, and not only treat me as a cybersecurity professional who just flex what they have done on the society or on that field. I hope that everyone there will serve that serve this content will serve as their motivation and even an encouragement for them to not only pursue cybersecurity, but also to tackle every security aspect of technological advances. Because I've said earlier that talking this in as early as now, it really helps people to prevent any future incidents that can happen. So far.
Okay. So with that, thanks a lot, PJ. And I'm sure people will be looking forward to hearing from you again. No? Thanks a lot for joining the conversation.
Yeah, sure. I'm looking forward to more conversations like this because I've been looking for this kind of discussions lately because I feel like that having this kind of discussions makes me want to learn more on different technologies that we have, especially AI and other technologies like quantum computing, maybe some other time IoT we can somehow diverse into it, and then how you can improve the security state of IoT in terms of it. But yeah, I'm looking forward more on this, and I'm really glad that you invited me here to talk.
Yeah. Sige. We'll do another episode soon.
Yeah, for sure.